All right, Shalom, Barakim La, Allah Yanawa, Yahweh, Bashim Yabushai, Barakim Tham Yad, Wakal, Bakaryam, Akim Akwath, Albanyam of the Habakaryam, Barak HaKwadash Ayah Yerushalayim, peace and blessings to the holy city, to the brothers and sisters, and the children of the elect. All praises, infinite honor, and glory also be to our power, Yahweh, through his son, Yahweh Shai. Double honor to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations be to the hopeful elect. Habayah from Adabada, the house of David, the brothers laboring day in and day out, giving all diligence to make their calling of election sure, helping seal the elect of the nation of Israel for the return of our Lord Hamashiach Yahweh Shai is at hand, and to the Akim Wakwath, brothers and sisters that listen and believe on the glorious gospel being preached throughout the four corners of the earth. Unto you, I say shalom, shalom, be to the hopeful elect. Tham Yad, Walla Kwat Desire, always and unto the end. So I'm gonna jump right into this video that I'm doing, and it's a response video actually to the brother Amath, which the title is "Don't Be Men Pleasing." Don't be men pleasing. Now I'm gonna go into the scriptures through the Spirit and touch on this point and just add to what the brother brought out, which the brother, touched on James the 2nd chapter, amongst other precepts in this video, which in James the 2nd chapter, the 9th verse, it tells us, don't be a respecter of persons, because ye commit sin if you are a respecter of persons. Now, the perfect example of this, being a respecter of person, having eye service, and being a men pleaser, all those things go hand in hand, and I'm going to show that through the Spirit. So when you go into the scriptures, you see men pleasers, found twice in Colossians 3:22 and Ephesians 6:6. So when you go into men pleasers or men pleasing, in the blue letter, it's G441, which I found highly spiritual when I looked this definition up of men pleasers. G441 once again. Now we know from right to left, 144 is making reference to the elect. So this is for those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, which would be of the Bakaryam, the hopeful elect. Now the definition means of men pleasing is studying to please men, courting the favor of men. I read it again. Studying to please men and courting the favor of men. So when I first saw this particular precept, the first thought that came to my mind was the precept here in 2 Timothy, which I'm going to get real quick, going into men pleasing, right? 2 Timothy 2, right? And verse 15, which going into men pleasing, this definition came to mind because it says, when you study, to please men or court the favor of men, that's what the definition of men pleasing is, which once again goes in line with, being a respecter of persons. And not only a respecter of persons, having eye service. 2 Timothy 2:15, it says, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High. So when we go back to the definition of men pleasing, it says, studying to please men, courting the favor of men. 2 Timothy 2:15. So it's the opposite of what we're commanded to do according to the word and to the Spirit. 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So we're told and commanded to study to show ourselves approved unto the Most High. And why is that? Because the scriptures tell us, adamantly and over again, throughout in scriptures like Ecclesiastes 12:13, fear the Lord and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. So we're told to serve the Most High and do that with singleness of mind, which we'll touch on that here in a second. So we're to study to show ourselves approved unto the Most High. And then thinking upon that, I thought further upon other precepts, which here's another, right? Just in that definition. So there's always lessons inside of lessons. Now, this is another precept that came to mind, as soon as I got that definition of men pleasing, studying to please men, courting the favor of men. Sirach 23 and verse 19, it reads, such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of Hadawan are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men and considering the most secret parts. So there's nothing that's unknown that won't be made manifest, and is not being made manifest to Yahweh Bashim Yabushai. So When you read Sirach 23:19 again, it says, such men only fear the eyes of man. So by nature, men have a spirit, to fear and to be concerned about how they're seen by other men, as opposed to how they are seen by the Most High. Are they serving the Most High in spirit and in truth and in sincerity to the best of their ability? Now, as we continue on, I'm going to go to the book of Colossians, the 3rd chapter, and touch further on this, because in Colossians, the 3rd chapter, it goes into man pleasing as it does in Ephesians 6:6. So Colossians 3 and verse 22, going to the point, it says, servants, obey in all things your masters, those that have the rule over you, right? Which will be your teachers, your big brothers, your elders. It says, according to the flesh. See, it says, according to the flesh. Not with eye service. So you don't do that with eye service. Once again, such men only fear the eyes of men, right? And know if not that the eyes of Hadawan are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing the Most High. We do that in singleness of heart, because once again, we were created, fear the Lord, to fear Hadawan and to keep his commandments. That's our whole duty and purpose. So now, why is that even important? Well, through the Spirit, I thought on this precept as well. Galatians 1:10, it says, for do I now persuade men or the Most High? Meaning what? On your walk, being in the ministry. Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Mashiach. I read that again. Galatians 1:10, it says, for do I now persuade men or the Most High? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I shall not be the servant of Hamashiach. So we cannot serve Hamashiach, by being a men pleaser, by being, most concerned about how we are viewed in the ministry, as opposed to being in service to the Most High. That should be the least of the things that we should be concerned about. We should be concerned about, first and foremost, chiefly pleasing Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. That should be of the utmost importance in our walk. So let's continue on. This is the book of Deuteronomy 1, and I'll start at verse 15. It says, so I took the chief of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, and captains over 50s, and captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. Verse 17, ye shall not respect persons in judgment. So being, a men pleaser goes right in line with being a respecter of persons. And it says we shall not be respecter of persons in judgment, because Yahushua told us to judge righteous judgment. So if we are a respecter in persons in judgment, we're not judging righteously. Continuing on, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is the Most High's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So through the Spirit, we're not supposed to be, once again, we're hearing this, men pleasers, serving the ministry with eye service, being more concerned about how men see us, as opposed to just being in service to the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Now, order is set up in the Spirit, but order doesn't overtake, this commandment, speaking of men pleasing, right? Because through order, one can be told or shown something that is incorrect according to the Spirit. As the scriptures tell us, trust no man, or take no man against our soul, or against our soul. Now, why would the scriptures also say that in the Spirit? Because just because someone has a position over another person, in the Spirit, that is, because it's all through the Spirit, because ultimately you don't know if the person to your right or your left, or that you're around, if that person is another prophet, etc. We only perceive these things. We know in part and we prophesy in part. So that's why we deal with each other in the Spirit, because a big part of that is knowing that Yahweh Shah said, do unto the least of them as you would do unto me. That's why he washed the feet of the disciples, giving us the example of brotherly love and service in the ministry. Yahweh Shai was that example, ultimately giving his life. So when we read here in Deuteronomy 1:17, it says, ye shall not respect persons in judgment. Now let's get a precept. Why is this being said in the scriptures? You shall not be a respecter of persons, it says, in judgment, and not to be a men pleaser. Because if you are a respecter of persons, you are a men pleaser. And you're doing the work, with eye service, being more concerned about, pleasing man than truly pleasing the Most High, truly being in the spirit, truly having the fear of Yahweh Shai, right? This truly shows the fear and the humility, right? Being, in the proper spirit, according to Hadawan, not man. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 7 and verse 4. It says, seek not Hadawan, preeminence to be the chief, to be, the top person, right? To be in the seat of Moses, so to speak, right? The scriptures speak about that when you read in Matthew, the 23rd chapter. Speak about being those that will be in the seat of Moses. So back in Sirach 7 and 4, seek not of Ha'adawan preeminence, neither of the king the seat of honor. Justify not thyself before Ha'adawan, and boast not of thy wisdom before the king, because all things we're doing is before the king, before Hamashiach Yahushai. Verse 6, and the point, seek not to be judged, being not able to take away iniquity. And what is it speaking of? None of us are Yahushai. That's why we shouldn't be seeking Moses' seat. Most High, it set up things in the spirit, but that's through humility, through faith, right? And truly through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It says, seek not to be judged, not being able to take away iniquity, because ain't none of us Yahushai. So we got to keep that in mind as we deal with one another in the ministry, in the spirit. It says, lest at any time thou fear the person of the mighty, or you start to fear the person of the mighty, meaning such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of Hadawan are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. Let's read that again. Lest at any time thou fear the person of the mighty, once again, being a respecter of persons, you commit sin. So you fear the person of the mighty, it says, and a stumbling block in the way of thy uprightness. That's right. And a stumbling block be put in the way, meaning you won't judge righteously. You're going to judge according to the flesh, not the spirit. You're going to have fear of man. You're going to have fear that if something is wrong or something is out of order, you ain't going to speak against it. Why? Because being out of order means when things are being done contrary to the word, contrary to the spirit, So now that fear of the person of the mighty is a stumbling block, as you read here in Sirach, the 7th chapter and the 6th verse. It becomes a stumbling block, and that is true in the ministry. Or why would these scriptures be put here? If this wasn't a truism, in the faith, then we would never see scriptures like this, but we clearly do, because these are reminders to those, that have eyes to see, right? And once again, these lessons, these epistles are not for everyone. So those that can't receive it or won't receive it, then ultimately it wasn't for you anyway. Matthew 25 and verse 40, continuing on with that. And it reads, Matthew 25 and 40, and the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. See, that shows, and it cuts that stumbling block that we read about in Sirach, the 7th chapter and the 6th verse, because it tells us the proper way that we're supposed to move in the spirit, right? This is all spiritual. So the way that we would do to the least is how we would actually, treat Hamashiach Yahushua. And this reemphasizes the fact, that men aren't infallible. And when you go into the word infallible, it means of or incapable or unable to make mistakes or being wrong. It doesn't matter what position that you are in or perceived to be in, no man is infallible. No man is without error or being wrong or making mistakes. So we all go off. Some synonyms mean to err, to be error-free, to be faultless. So what man in the ministry is faultless? Yahushua was the only one that walked perfectly, right? Before Hadawan, before the Lord. It says incapable. It says, and it also goes into what? It says incapable, and it also goes into being, it says perfect, impeccable, Salakia. Impeccable and perfect. So those words, some synonyms are, once again, are error, being error free, to be faultless, to be flawless, to be incapable or impeccable, excuse me. And it also means to be perfect. Now, what man is impeccable and perfect and flawless and faultless in this ministry on this earth? Free. The scriptures say all have sinned and fall short of the glory of Hadawan. So continuing on, this all, is an indicator or denotes, which means to indicate humility. Those who truly have humility, those who truly are in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua and have matured in the spirit to understand and know such a thing. So not thinking more highly of ourselves, than what we ought to. Because the scriptures say that the things that are highly esteemed among men are an abomination to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So why is even that important? Right? Because the first are going to be last, and the last are going to be first. So with that, I hope that was edifying to the hopeful elect. I want to give all praises, infinite honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honor to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Peace, love, blessings, and salutations be to the hopeful elect. Habayath Madabadah, the house of David, the brothers laboring day in and day out, giving all diligence to make their calling of election sure. Help us seal the elect of the nation of Israel for the return of our Lord Hamashiach Yahushai is at hand. And to the Akim Wakwath, brothers and sisters that also listen and believe on the glorious gospel being preached. And to you, I say Shalom.